Hello and welcome back to Chiefsman's Corner, our first recorded version in a while. I'm your host, Coach Winuvas, one of the leadership team here in WFL and the coach of the Chicago Bears. This show will be less focused on what's going on in the league right now, which is Wild Card Weekend, and more on what happens when we hit the off season. I'll be doing a detailed breakdown of how our simulated season will be handled, complete with the sample schedule we will use, and some setups you'll need to help with, and there's explanations incoming for that as well. And hopefully this will be your catch-all for simulated seasons as we move forward after we get done with our first one in WFL. If anyone is tuned in for the premiere, thank you for tuning in. I'll hopefully be around to interact via YouTube during the premiere if you're watching this at any time, however. Thank you for watching. Any and all support is appreciated. Without you guys, the WFL community doesn't exist. The first thing I want to talk about today, as always, is the WFL's incentive plan. The incentive plan allows you to get some perks that aren't available for every member simply by doing some extracurricular activities that involve WFL. Anything from Twitter to articles on the Neon Sports site to commenting or participating in this show, even chatting in Discord can earn you points. Anything that makes the WFL a more immersive experience and increases its presence in the Madden community earns you some sort of credit. Link to the incentive plan is available using the command /incentive plan in Discord. That is /incentive plan, all one word, in Discord. The next thing to talk about is our form Ask the Chief. You can use this form during the week between episodes to submit any questions you have for me, and I will answer them during the show, giving you credit for the question. It's an easy way to build up incentive points and provide extra content for the podcast. You can use the command /askthechief to pull up the form in Discord. That is all one word, /askthechief, to pull up that form in Discord. Another thing to discuss as we get closer to the offseason we'll be talking about, remember to fill out the WFL survey by using /WFL survey, again, all one word, to get some easy XP and help make the WFL a better league. Also be sure to get ready for incentive plan forms to make sure you get your proper level in the sim season that is upcoming. Awards will be coming up soon as well, so get ready for everything. One last thing, Buckman's Big Board does need some assistance. They have changed how scouting information is pulled, and now what I used to be able to do by myself, I can't do by myself, which is putting grades for every player. What I need is DM'd photos of your attributes main page for a position group that you have at least 45% scouted. This is the main page. You don't have to pull into each prospect, but from the prospect page per position, you can basically scroll all the way to the right and you'll see all the different attributes that are available for those positions. Essentially, this will take a couple of photos to get everything because you may have to scroll up and down, you may have to scroll left and right. But essentially, if you have the following positions available, and the first one to submit them to me, I'm going to go ahead and give you a bounty of 1,000 experience that I'll put towards your account. I need the following positions: halfback, fullback, tight end, offensive line, right end, outside linebacker, middle linebacker, cornerback, safety, kicker, and punter. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get this show on the road. And what we're going to do is go ahead and pull up, as I zoom it in a little bit so you can see it a little easier. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the sim season template schedule. Now, be aware this schedule obviously is not 100% filled in because at this point we don't have any days, but just assume that where it says day 1, there will be a date and date with day. So, for example, if the season ends this Friday, as an example, then day 1 would be Saturday, November 2nd. And the windows are 2-hour windows to allow for possibility of issues creeping up as far as sniping of players, which I'll go over more in the free agency periods. Now, a couple of things I do want to touch on this particular template is that we are combining some things together in an effort to speed up the process as much as we possibly can. Because as you go through this sheet, you're going to realize why we did this. So day 1, this is the day after the WFL Bowl is played from 7 a.m. to 9. Oh, that should be 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Oh, that's when it starts. Never mind. That's the window it starts. Oh, golly. So we're going to have a 12-hour period from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And essentially, I will state for the record that more than likely we will let that go as late as we can to this 9:01 region p.m. So 12 hours will be spent for not only signing staff, if you're able to cut staff. Do be aware there are rules for whether or not you can fire staff, offensive and defensive coordinators. So be sure you follow those rules and do not fire people you're not supposed to fire. and do not hire people you're not supposed to hire, that kind of thing. But during this stage, you can also, and I don't know if most people know this, but you can also re-sign players. So during this time, we're going to do a combo where essentially we're going to ask you to re-sign your staff. If you need to make new staff signings, you can do it during this time. But you can also re-sign players during this stage. So do be aware of that. You can re-sign players during this stage. So what this means is we will be skipping the normal re-sign player stage, which occurs after staff signing. There's a stage for re-signing players. We're essentially condensing that into one 12-hour period. So this is why I'm really, really big on this time of the season. You have to be plugged in 100%. I know 12 hours is not a lot of time, but hopefully most people have done the re-signs of their players at this point. So I'm really hoping that with that setup, I'm hoping that we won't have a lot of worries about re-signing players. This is also the time where if you need to worry about franchise tags, this is the time whenever we need to discuss those franchise tags that involve you cutting the player to free agency. So that way we can make a list of these things for players or for owners as we go into this sim season. So on day one, at pretty much 9 o'clock, I'll go ahead and say it's going to be 9 o'clock. It's going to be 9 o'clock Eastern. We're going to advance to free agency period 1, and it's going to be 24 hours from that point. Okay, now 24 hours it might be a little bit shorter than that, but it's going to be about 24 hours. So 24 hours for free agency period 1, and then a 12-hour turnaround from free agency period 2 to free agency period 3, because most of the players that are big names are going to sign period 1. If not, they'll be knocked out by period 2, and most people that are trying for those players will go ahead and keep bids on those players in an effort to get them. And then advance to free agency period round 3. I will say make sure that you're obeying some of the free agency rules as I go to pull them up here real quick. The main ones I want to focus on, and I'm scrolling through this kind of quick, so I do apologize if you're trying to keep up. But this is all accessible via the link that you'll be provided in the scheduling. But this is the main part I want to focus on. All season free agency, do remember if you offer a 1-year contract to a player, you must offer 50% of what you offer in salary must be a bonus. So what that simply means is if you offer a $2 million salary, you have to offer $1 million in bonus, and that is to make sure you actually bother to try and keep the player, or if you cut or trade the player, you do incur more of a penalty for doing so because it's a short-term contract. Essentially, it's the thought process. The player is signing a short-term deal. They want more guarantees, and that's why the 50% bonus is in there. If you need help with the math, please feel free to ask any member of leadership. We'll be glad to help you with the math, but it's simply 50% of your salary has to be involved in bonus as well. So like I said, an easy number, $2 million in salary, have to have $1 million in bonus because that's half of $2 million. So going back to this, going back to the sim template, we're going to go through free agency as quickly as possible, but essentially we're going to have 1 day for stage 1, 12 hours for stage 2. Stage 3 is going to be where we actually have the draft. So day 3 is going to be where our draft is going to take place. Whatever day that falls on, it's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And yes, that may mean you might not be able to make it. Please make sure you set a favorites board. If you're not sure how to set your favorites board, go ahead and get with a member of leadership if you need help with it. Now, the favorites board has changed from last year because they tweaked it a little bit, which I don't like. But essentially, all you have to do to set a favorite is basically find the player and then hit triangle to send them to your favorites board. This year, you're not able, I don't think you're able to organize your favorites board by position, so you will, or by player. So once you build a big board, you can't just move them around as easy as you could last year, from what I understand. So you will have to basically go through and painfully and painstakingly choose the players in the order you want them to be drafted in. So it's a little bit more of a pain. Do be aware that you can start setting favorites right now. Now, this being said, on day 3, whatever day again that falls on, the 3rd day of our off season, we're going to be advancing around between 2:30 and 6:30 to the close of free agency, so we can have our final scouting period for any sort of private workouts and things of that nature. Trades will close, and it's not listed in there. I will list it before I send this out. Trades for players will end 1 hour before the draft starts. So at 8 p.m. Eastern time, no trades for players involved will be thought about until post-draft. So if you got any trades you want to make that involve players, they have to be made before 8 p.m. of that 3rd day before that draft starts. Picks. If you are only trading picks, picks can be traded up to 30 minutes before the draft starts. Again, at 8:30 Eastern Time, the day of the draft, no trades will be analyzed at all. If you submitted at 8:31, I don't give a darn. We're not looking at it because we're all focused on getting the draft going, okay? So that's our rules around drafts and trading in particular. I know it's not super realistic. I do apologize for that, but all of us are going to be tuned into our drafts and trying to make sure we get our players set up. We don't have time to be analyzing pick trades, okay, or trades in general. We're going to be busy, tied up with other things. Some of us, like myself, will be doing a draft show. So be aware, we're going to be tied up and we're not going to have time to analyze these trades. That's why we kind of nix them during the draft. Okay, I'm sorry. If there was an easier way we could figure out, I'd be open to it. But right now, as it stands, that's the rules around it. So now we're going to continue. After the draft starts, if you're not available, your pick will be simmed. Essentially, what I do is I usually try and get a list of people who definitely will not be there. So that way I have my list that I can skip and know I can skip. If you know you can't be there, even if it's for a round or two or if it's for the whole thing, let me know via DM as soon as possible so I can go ahead and be ready to go ahead and skip you. Because we want to try and move through this thing as quickly as possible. But 7 rounds with 32 owners, that can take upwards of about an hour and a half, 2 hours if guys aren't paying attention. So that's why we try to advance these things as quickly as possible. If we know people are not there, we're going to skip you. And what I do is I go in there, I go under the members tab, I look to see if you're online. If I see a green light by your name, I wait. I assume you are online. If I see green, even if you are playing a game in another league, I assume you're online for the draft. So if you show up as green on my side whenever I go to look to see if you're on or not, I do not touch it. I let it go the full 2 minutes, even unless I've gotten notice from you that you're going to be doing something else or otherwise not going to be at the draft. If I go in there and I see red, I assume you're not here because you're not, and I sim the pick immediately. So I do not wait. If I go in and I think you're not there and I see red, I sim. So if you pop up 20 seconds later because you were just waiting for your pick to come up and then you got on, tough. Be there or let me know that this is the kind of thing you're going to do, because I'm going to be trying to move as efficiently as possible to get us done with this as quickly as possible, because we got a lot of stuff to go through. So after the draft is done, immediately after the draft, we will jump to preseason week 1, and there we will sit for 24 hours so you can go ahead and do training camp activities, submit ORP forms, submit waiver claims, do off-season stuff. Whatever you've got going on, this is the time to do it, is right after that draft. You can do it before the draft, but most people wait till after the draft so they can go ahead and bump their rookies with ORP points. If you don't know what ORP is, please look at our off-season regimen program stuff. It's available using custom commands in Discord. You can check those out. Once we get done with the 24 hours of waiting for preseason week 1, we will go to preseason week 4 with no pauses. So in other words, we're going to be jumping from week 1 to week 4. We're not going to wait. We're not going to let you do any of these wonderful little storylines. I'm sorry. We're trying to move as quickly as possible. So you're going to have to forgive us on this kind of stuff. But what we're going to do to get us to week 1 or preseason week 4 as quickly as possible, we jump and we keep going. We do not wait. So if there's any storylines that you can't get because we're simming and simming and simming, I'm sorry, everybody's missing out on them. Nobody's going to get advantage of it. So you're not being cheated by the system. You're not being cheated by the league. Nobody's getting the benefit of it. So does it suck? Yeah, but it's one of those things where we have to take this trade-off for time. If we waited for everybody to do all these storylines, we'd be here for 3 weeks waiting on guys to get done. So we just have to get to the preseason week 4 as quickly as possible. Once we're there, we're going to be doing our practice squad. You'll get 12 hours to set all your practice squad team and get final cuts down to 53. I will state, I'm going to come back on screen for this. I will state, if any of this gets done quicker, and by this means I need your help with this. If you get finished with any of these tasks that we've mentioned to this point, or as we continue, as we move on, if you get done with any of these activities, please, please, please get online and mark yourself as ready to advance. Okay? That lets me know and lets the league know that you're done. And if everybody does that, then we can move that much faster. And I know I'm going to have a couple people that forget this or don't do this or don't like doing this. But this helps the league move faster. If you are done, set yourself as ready to advance. And that includes free agency. Like if you've put out your contracts you can put out and you're as good as you're going to get, set yourself as ready to advance. I'll advance that sucker sooner. I don't care. but most people don't do that. But for any of these activities where we're waiting on you to set rosters and stuff, we will wait the maximum amount of time we can and then go. But if you get done quicker and the league gets done quicker, let's get going. Let's get this thing moving. Now, after we get done with setting for 53, we're going to go to week 1, and we're going to sit there for 12 to 24 hours. And this is going to depend wildly on leadership, and I'm included in that, because what we will be doing is we will be going in and putting the names in for the big board. Now, during that time frame, you guys can be doing something. You can be going ahead and setting your scouts, hiring scouts. Week 1 is when you hire scouts, and go ahead and get that situation set up so that way you're ready. You can also do weekly training, so you can do your week 1 training and get your players set up for simulated weeks, because we will be simming a bunch of weeks in succession. And also, we will be simming with injuries on during the sim. During the sim season, injuries will be on to account for depth. Now, there will be times, again, I'll show you in the schedule, where we will pause, so that way if you guys get bombarded with injuries, you can go ahead and make adjustments to your roster using your practice squad, using waiver claims, things of that nature. But be aware, injuries will be on. Now, they will be off during the preseason. But once week 1 starts, we will turn them back on, and we will go through the entirety of the season with injuries on. So do be aware of that. So going back to our schedule here, we're going to take 12 to 24 hours, and this depends entirely on leadership and how fast we can get the big board basically populated with all the information we can in week 1, which is essentially, honestly, here's what it is. Name, school, height, weight, and then position, obviously. That's it. So it shouldn't take too terribly long, but be aware we all have lives, we all have jobs, and we all have families to kind of work around with. So we will do this as fast as possible. Generally speaking, if I can sit down and do it, I can usually knock one of these out in a couple of hours, 3 to 4 hours. But again, we have to adjust for other things, other life events. But no more than 24 hours. If we can't get it done in 24 hours, we'll catch up with it in the next advance, because then we're going to advance to week 3. And the reason we do week 3 is because at week 3 is whenever you can set your regional scouts, basically everybody that's not national, you can set what positions they're actually focused on. Based on some of the information I've got back from some of my big board helpers, it looks like nobody set their regional scouting and everybody's sending me quarterback stuff. I don't need quarterback, guys. I need everything else, like I said in the beginning intro. Make sure you set your regional scouts, because that can make a difference in how you basically get position and get percentages for positions. Okay? So do that in week 3. Again, do weekly training if you want to. Anything where we have a pause that you can do trainings and stuff, feel free to interact. The only thing you can't do is play a game. That's it. That's it, because this is a simulated season. No playing will go on during the season. Now, as we move on, so after week 3, we're going to update the big board again, because we'll get some extra information. And then we're going to go straight to week 8. This is the trade deadline. So this is twofold. Number 1, hopefully you've been negotiating some deals in between all those other pauses. But at week 8 is when we do national focus scouting. So your national scout then gets a chance to choose what position they want to look at. So at that point, you can do that, set your weekly training, and finish up any trades that you need to make before we advance. Again, we're going to be updating the big board at this point. So it's going to be a 12 to 24 hour process where we're adding in the letter grades and stuff, because at this point we're getting letter grades, we're getting scheme fits, we're getting all that stuff in. So we should be populating most, if not all, the board, hopefully. If we need some help from you guys, we'll obviously get some. But hopefully we'll be able to take care of it in-house amongst leadership. We'll see what happens. But after week 8, once we get week 8 done and we get that big board updated, we're going to the playoffs. Straight to the playoffs. So once we get to the playoffs, this is how it's going to go down. When we get to the playoffs, just like we are right now, currently live, we're in wild card weekend as of recording of this video. When we get to wild card weekend in the sim season, at that point, our WFL media team will be going through and looking at end of season awards, just like they are right now. We're going to be doing voting for Sportsman of the Season. Even though nobody's played games, we'll do a vote for Sportsman of the Season, just so that way we get some extra bonus ORP involved. We're going to be voting for all pro teams, all rookie teams, and awards for MVP and all that good stuff. We do that in-house, and it supersedes voting that's done in the game. You still get the bonuses from in-game, but you also get bonuses from winning our awards outside of game, the ones that we award to our players, to our coaches. So do be aware of that. The media team's going to be doing that. I will probably not do a survey right then and there like I normally do at the end of the season. What I'll probably do is do a survey at the beginning of the next play season to see how this simulated season went as far as feedback goes. So do be aware that the WFL survey will probably not be active, but our award ceremony will be. You won't have to worry about incentives during the simulated season because we're going to carry over anything you earn for the play season. We're going to carry over to the sim season. By the way, the sim season does count. If your team sets any records, if you win a bowl game, you're going to get a banner. You're going to get an MVP trophy or MVP picture put in the record book. So just because we're not playing any games does not mean this doesn't count. It just means that we're basically fast forwarding a bit to, number one, get some contracts that age a little bit so guys can actually see the ends of some of those long-term contracts that tend to hurt folks. And so that way we can get more seasons in so we can get more interactions amongst our teams and see players kind of transition out and new players emerge as well. And also, who doesn't like drafts anyway? But what we'll do as far as the playoffs is we will advance every 3 to 4 hours until we get to WFL Bowl game. Now, with this in mind, I want to say this because this is one of those things that I have not 100% worked out, and I don't know if it will work. But what I would like to do is I would like to have whoever makes the WFL Bowl game essentially do a simulated game like we used to do for our GM League, which means that basically they load up like they're going to play, but instead of playing, what they'll do is they'll go to Super Sim. They'll slow down the game speed and essentially say Super Sim till the end of the game. And basically, once you do that, the game pulls back into broadcast and essentially plays itself out. That's what I would like to see. So that way everybody could kind of watch the WFL Bowl game together and maybe enjoy it. The computer can be kind of iffy though, so I may not do that, or I may discuss it for the next sim season. But that is something I would eventually like to get to, is essentially streaming that WFL Bowl, just like we will this season. We're going to have a WFL Bowl game stream, and I'm hoping, I know our guy Juke just left us because of real-life family stuff. He's trying to spend more time with his family, and good for him. Kudos to him on that. But I do want to have a WFL Bowl broadcast, so I'm hoping that depending on what time frame they're looking at, that I hop on. Now, mine's not going to be as pretty as Juke's, but it will be functional. So if I do happen to get on for the WFL Bowl, I would like to do commentary on it because I'd like us to have some stuff around that, around our bowl games in particular. But I would like to see in the sim season the WFL Bowl game get broadcast, because I think it'd be really cool for us to sit down, especially with this 3 to 4 hour deal. Like, we've got a time frame set for 7 to 9:01 p.m. I like for us to essentially be able to sit and say at 9 o'clock Eastern the game starts, and everybody sits down, or as many people that can make it sit down and actually get to watch it live and kind of maybe interact in YouTube chat and all that good stuff. So that way we can all have a good time around it and we can all watch it together, even the person that's participating in it. But essentially, once the WFL Bowl game is complete, whether we simulate it or whether we play it out like I just discussed, technically that's a sim either way, then we're going to move right into, look at this, day 9, we're back where we started at the beginning. We're at the staff signing stage and also re-signing players during the stage. So just like I talked about at the beginning where we start with day 1, it's a 12-hour stage where you can fire coaches, hire coaches if you're eligible, and then you also do your re-signs during this stage as well. To do your re-signs, all you have to do is go under Manage Roster. When you go to Manage Roster, you can go to Team Re-signs. Go into Team Re-signs. You can do your re-signs right then and there. You do not have to wait for the player re-sign stage to do player re-signs. You can do them early, but do be aware if you do them early, that basically counts for the re-sign stage as well. But that's why we're combining the two together. Day 9 at 7:01 p.m., we start free agency period 1. It's 24 hours. Then we have a 12-hour period for free agency period 2, 12-hour period for about a 10-hour period for free agency period 3. 2:30 to 6:30 p.m., we advance to close of free agency where we do our final scouting. And then day 11 from the previous, so from the start of the off season, 11 days out, we will be doing a second draft at 9 p.m. Eastern, so 8 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Pacific. If you can't be there, just like with the first time I discussed it, your pick will be simmed. And then after the draft, preseason week 1, sit for 24 hours. All of this should look very familiar. The only difference is at the very bottom, day 13 at between 7 and 9 a.m. Eastern time in the morning, we begin the new play season and we go to our 72-hour setup. That is essentially going to be our sim season template. I hope that we can work out the kinks and make it even faster if possible. this, without actually going through the process, this is as fast as I could make it and not leave people behind. But this means one thing: you have to be here. You have to be plugged in. You have to be engaged. If you know you're not going to be, or you know you can't be, put yourself on autopilot, or let us know to put you on autopilot, because I do not want to hear from any owners that complain about the fact that their team was not taken care of because they didn't have the time or take the time to take care of it during the sim season. I'm not having any of it. So if you can't be there, we're going to set you on autopilot, or you set yourself on autopilot, and then you're going to go through the motions as CPU. CPU is going to screw you up, I can guarantee you, but it's better than just nothing happening, because then you're going to have like 30 or 40 players. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're going to be unhappy, and you're probably going to quit. And to be fair, if you have gone that long in the offseason and not done anything, you probably need to quit, because offseason is our time. This is our biggest time. This is the time where we need you to be plugged in the most. I know a lot of guys here like to play games, love to jump in and play Madden, and that's great. That's wonderful. I'm glad you enjoy playing the games. But the off season is where the team is built and the team is made. If you're not in and you're not engaged and you're not plugged in, then what use do I have for you whenever we're playing games? Build your team out, be here, and if you can't be here, tell us as soon as possible so we can autopilot you and make sure at least the CPU takes care of you. Because if we don't know, we don't set you, and because we like you to make your own decisions. But if we don't know, we don't set you, and if you complain after the fact that you weren't set and you didn't say anything, it is on you. It is your fault. So be plugged in during this time frame. We're going to be running hot and heavy and fast and hard, okay? So be here and be plugged in, because this sim season counts just like any other season, and it's going to be that much quicker, which means you've got to be engaged. You've got to be here, okay? That's as important and as much of a plea to be plugged in as I can make for this simulated season, because again, it does count. So be aware of that, okay? Be plugged in and be here for that. Now, with that being said, I do not have any Ask the Chief questions for today, so therefore we're just going to roll right into the outro with this, because I did go quite long on this edition of basically going over what a simulated season is going to be in. So thank you guys for tuning into this, whether you were tuned in for the premiere or afterwards with a recording after the fact. I appreciate it. The WFL community appreciates it, excuse me. And we hope you're entertained by the show. Let us know by throwing us a like, a subscribe, or leaving comments. Any feedback, good or bad, is always appreciated. Until next Monday, I hope, where I should be a live broadcast, the corner is closed.